Hey there, leader. I see you. Are the ever-expanding responsibilities of entrepreneurship keeping you from developing the life-first business you've always wanted? If you're expending precious time and energy, but still struggling to identify a defined direction for your business, grappling with the growing list of competitors in your area, or wondering how to hire, train, and delegate to a growing team, I have a brand new resource for you. Introduce yourself to the KLC Happy Hour Masterclass Bundle. I've put together 4 high-impact masterclasses built to help you sharpen your business acumen, level up your leadership, and master your marketing. This high-impact bundle walks you through branding, hiring, culture curation, and scaling up. And the cool thing is, it's all pre-recorded and all yours to consume and dig into on your own time. For a limited time, Fierce Factor listeners get $100 off with code FF100 off now. Go grab this bundle at klcconsultants.com/HH bundle. Okay, now on to our scheduled programming. Hi there. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. You're here for another incredible episode with moi, your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I'm super excited to have you here, even if it's for a few minutes. I'm actually packing up right now, getting ready to head out tomorrow morning to Aesthetic Next in Dallas. And then I'm flying from there to Nashville to vacation actually for a few days. So I'm going to be gone for a full week. I have to tell you, I'm planning to be gone for a week. Like, it's not even about the week away, but we have like a household to manage, like the logistics of what has to happen at home for me to be gone is hilarious. So I'm just going to forewarn you that this podcast, while I probably could have played a bonus episode for you or replayed one of the 500,000 hours of YouTube video that is available, I couldn't. I just had to talk to you because I have something that is on my heart. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I consider a superpower as a leader that we women carry around. Some of us don't even realize, and I call it the feminine edge. And I think that there's something so magical about being a woman and being a female leader. And I have to give credit to my good friend, Yvonne Delos, who was live on Instagram the other day. And I watched her video, it was about 10 minutes. If you don't follow her lives, you should go check her out. But she was posing a question and sort of interacting with her live audience about a scenario. She gave an example about having to fire her accountant and why do women, as they show up in business, being direct and having sort of that male instinct, if you will, that sort of masculinity in approach, why are they looked at as being a bitch? Whereas, a man can feel free to just be himself and be direct and be frank and honest and upfront and ask for more and all of those things. So I started to really process this and think about it, and I actually called Krista on our team. She is our strategic growth advisor who specializes in mindset and human optimization. She has a master's degree in psychoanalysis and a long corporate background in developing CEOs, their thought leadership, and their public speaking. And so I was asking her about this, like from a communication strategy standpoint, what her thoughts were. And she was talking about how because of the patriarchy, us women are trying to climb, not so much climb over each other, but we're competing sort of against our own selves and against the patriarchy or against the models of what are available to us, right? We're sort of trying to disrupt, don't know where to fit in and how to be ourselves and how to get what we want, right? And it's sort of that, I want to stand up for myself and what I believe in, and I have to be louder than you to do that, or I have to be more direct than you to do that, et cetera. And so she had some really meaningful insights to share, and I wanted to kind of just take this to the next level with you, because as I've been processing, I've been thinking about my personal opinion about that, about how I interact with other men in the business world, being a CEO and being who I am and what I'm responsible for on a daily basis in my business. What that really brought up for me was so much of the history and background and experience that I've been fortunate to have, and the ability to model other female leaders who led with female characteristics. And I think that if you can lean into that as a woman, that is an unstoppable combination, right? That fierceness, the ability to show up and communicate and articulate your message with confidence, and also to lean into the feminine traits that make us so powerful as women in so many different areas of our life. And so I started to think about this feminine edge and my background and why I personally don't necessarily have a negative relationship or opinion about interaction with an evolved man, right? A man that shows up today and really has bought into and understands that we as human beings thrive on connection and relationships. And yet I also see, for example, companies who want to partner with me as an example, right? Hey, Kaylee, we want probably just to influence you and get access to your clients, but let's have a meeting and get to know each other. And before we even set up the first meeting, they're sending me an NDA to sign. Like, how is this building trust? And I just think those are like completely antiquated ways of doing business with a wholehearted human being. And so I don't think that we have to fall into that model as women. I think that we can leverage our instincts, our intuition, our empathy, our softness, and our femininity to get what we want in life. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience and then take you through what I called really 5 key areas where I think we should be leaning into our competitive edge more as female entrepreneurs. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience coming out of college. I was hired even before I graduated to work for Bayer Healthcare. And I worked for a male, and he taught me grit and determination and really having passion for what you show up and do every day. And the harder you work, the better the results will be. And I think this is how I was raised. I think I was ready and willing to work hard and wanted to be the best and wanted to compete. And I wanted to be any female or male. I think that was amazing. And because I excelled in my sales role, I also got exposed to 2 in particular really phenomenal female leaders who were all feminine. I mean, badass, but like as sweet as pie, had that innate ability to deliver a meaningful message that was very clear and concise in a soft way, and not had to have that really sharp edge, but showed up like you would expect a female to show up from a feminine aspect. And I remember sitting in, her name was Sherry Fersler, she's still around, and Mary Punchakar, give shout outs to those 2 brilliant women who I would emulate and mimic and mirror and watch as they would sit around a boardroom full of men, yet wear feminine suit and just show up in their highest high heels. And Sherry's like 6 foot tall. Like, well, I remember her that way at least, but just owning the room. And it's interesting because I feel like, and it'd be interesting to talk to them. Maybe I should have them on a podcast actually, now that I think about it, but it would be interesting to hear their perspective. But I remember how they were so charismatically able to magnetize everybody in the room, man or woman, and to get people to listen to them. And everything that they did, there were certain similarities in their approaches. And so I think that what I learned and modeled was because I had such great fortune to work for strong women who acted and embrace their femininity and weren't trying to act like a man and weren't trying to step over everybody or trying to have to be more assertive or louder or more domineering. And so I think it's important for us as we think about how we approach our communication with women and men, and as we become more and more aware of the realities of the patriarchy that's been built around us. If you think about it, and I referenced this in my last solo episode, that a lot of the business books that we follow from a principles framework were written in the 40s, and our grandmas for a lot of us, our mothers were stay at home, right? My grandmother, she shared a car with my grandfather and she stayed home every day and made the food, did the dishes, took care of the children. And so we have to create a new framework, and falling back into or trying to match and compete with the way that a man shows up in his communication style, I don't necessarily think is the right way to go. So I was doing just a little bit of research on this, and I could go down a rabbit hole, and I don't want to do this. I have to pack, and I want to keep this short and sweet and to the point like usual for you guys, but I want to be honest. And so I was thinking about the idea of just physical power, right? And let's say a man and a woman went into a fight. And so I just sort of was asking Google, can a woman overpower a man? And what would it take? What came up was that whether you're male or female, you don't need an extraordinary amount of strength or power to strike and defeat your opponent. I started thinking about, I was watching Cobra Kai like last year. My family is addicted to Cobra Kai, which is like a spinoff of The Karate Kid. So totally awesome show. If you have not watched it, I definitely say check it out. But the girls and their guys who are not necessarily as big and strong and powerful as their opponent, but that they can instead beat their opponent with proper technique, agility, and speed. So this article talked about how a female fighter who dominates proper technique, remains calm, and controls herself can overpower a larger and stronger male. And I loved that as an analogy for us as women and how we can show up in our business interactions, that really the one who wins is the one who can outsmart their opponent, quote unquote, and or really understand tactically the moves that she needs to make to create a win-win scenario for everybody. And that's why I think we are so phenomenal at creating strategic partnerships and making them sustainably successful over time, because we act on a currency of trust and relationships. I was pulling up a recent published review that was published in the Harvard Business Review, and findings from this analysis of a 360-degree review showed that women in leadership positions were perceived as being every bit as effective as men. In fact, while the differences weren't huge, women scored at a statistically significantly higher level than men on the vast majority of leadership competencies that were measured. Women rated as excelling in taking initiative, acting with resilience, practicing self-development, driving for results, and displaying high integrity and honesty. In fact, they were thought to be more effective in 84% of the competencies that we most frequently measure people or leaders in our society. Does that surprise you at all? It doesn't surprise me one bit. And by the way, not that I feel like it's necessary to say this, but I will. I've also had incredibly inspiring, empowering, and motivating male leaders that I've worked for as well. Few of them, but I have. And I think that male leaders who adopt these specific traits are the best there is as well. And so I don't necessarily think it has to be a male or female thing. What I'm trying to say here is that I think we need to think about our value as women, and we need to step in and embrace our feminine edge. So I want to quickly go through these 5 areas that I want you to focus on when we're thinking about and when you're showing up in your day-to-day interactions with your team and vendors and partnerships and business. I want you to really think about these 5 areas. So number 1 is leading with curiosity, empathy, and seeking to understand. And what I mean by this is that you don't have to communicate like a quote unquote dictator, or that I'm the boss, or have to actually show or talk and tell people how important you are in any circle. I think that in any situation, I have found that the most success I've had in negotiations, in enrolling people into my vision, in garnering support for me or a client or you name it, has been when I have first sought out to understand the other person and what their goals were. So a lot of times we'll have clients that'll be like, I want to develop a strategic partnership with someone down the road, right? And I'm going to go drop off a flyer and tell them and give them a discount to come in. Well, that's great. I love the idea of partnering. But before I did anything or offered anything, I would first want to get to know that person, right? Like I would think that they would want to trust me and know me, that they would want to make sure that I understand what their goals were before I made a pitch for us to partner for anything. So I think that even if you're in a situation where you feel like, I feel like this man doesn't respect me and I feel misunderstood, the first step in just any kind of human communication and human interaction is to understand where they're coming from and why they have not met your expectations, so to speak, or why they feel like they're falling behind, or how they feel like they're doing as it relates to the way that you guys have discussed, how you'll interact with each other or in the future ongoing. Number 2 is to focus on value, not price. And this goes both ways, ladies. So I see so often I get asked, oh, how should I price my services? What's the right price for XYZ? And at the end of the day, price is only a reflection of value, and it's only an objection in absence of value. And so let me explain what I'm saying is that I will pay, I don't even know, $2,000 for my cell phone. This thing probably costs $7 to make, maybe. But because of what that will do for me in my life, I will pay whatever the market rate is. Okay. Same with business coaching. An hour of somebody's time, I will tell you, I'm paying in the tens of thousands, literally for fractions of little tiny pieces of time to get access to somebody's knowledge and experience. To me, it's priceless, right? And so if I was just to say, well, what's an hour worth for a human, or I Googled, like, what's the average, going rate for, that means nothing to me. So there's that. So what we're putting out there, we need to remember that somebody is perceiving a specific value. So when you're thinking about your services, that's something important to remember. The other thing I want you to remember is that you also have a value. And so when someone asks me, when I'm thinking about what my value is to somebody else, first of all, I decide that. And also I might think about, for example, if I was going into a negotiation and let's say a device company came to me and said, I want you to give a talk on stage. To me, I could come up with a price and decide what my price is, or I could think through what the value would be for them. So first of all, understanding what their goal is. So let's say if their goal was they want to sell 3 devices at this event, and because I'm talking about it, and those devices are $150,000 a piece. So the value of that talk is $450,000 plus consumables. Okay. So call it about $500,000. So for me to sit and dilly-dally around, what do I think I can get for that hour makes no sense. And that comes down to having a feminine edge and believing in what my value is by understanding what the value of what I'm bringing to my partner will be. What I'm trying to say is take the time to slow down and think about what you are bringing to the table for them. If I do my job, let's say you pay me, I could say my speaking fee is $2,000 and they'll still make $500,000, right? Or I could say my speaking fee is $15,000. And with that, you'll sell 3 devices and make $500,000. I'd say that's a pretty decent ROI. But you got to show up and you have to stand up for yourself. So when I think of leading with the feminine edge, I think of in every way, focusing on value, not price. So when we're making an investment or when we are selling our time, our services, our products, etc. Number 3 is measure actions, not words. This is where I see a lot of women go wrong, is that we love words. I love you. I care about you. You're so pretty. Look what you did, right? Especially some of you empaths, or for those of you whose love language is words of affirmation. I'm one of those. I love hearing words. I love feeling appreciated. But I will tell you once that old saying of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I live by that. You screw with me one time and it's game over. I'm not going to give you my time again. You get a shot with me. It's more of the sense that I have become, and this has been through experience, but I've become extraordinarily focused on judging people by the actions they take, by the consistency, by their discipline, their determination, how they show up, the way that they don't just talk about what they're going to do, but they do it. In fact, I'm extraordinarily attracted to people who don't launch products or services too soon, who sit and think and they're strategic about how they show up, because when they show up big time. You might know these people. If you think about somebody that you know, that every time, like all of a sudden there's something new they announce, there has been months in the works behind the scenes. There's been so much planning and preparation and goal setting and pivoting and polishing so that you know what they put out is always going to be first class. And I believe that our company is known for that because we never put things out that have not been tested, that have not been already put through the test and then gotten feedback and prepared again and re-prepared, right? And so that is a ninja tactic, ladies. If you want to have the feminine edge, just pay attention to what people say. And for you too, think about, do you walk the walk or do you talk the talk, right? Or do you walk your talk? I think that actions speak louder than words in every single scenario. Feminine edge philosophy number 4 is that we protect our energetic well-being. And many of us grew up in hustle culture and we really derived our sense of value by what we achieved. And many of us were raised that way. I mean, having 2 full-time working parents, guess when they showed up? When I was number 1 in soccer, or I was the lead in the play. That's when we saw them. So I know that whether it was intentional or has been intentional or not, many of us high achieving women have been programmed literally since we were babies to receive love and feel worthy when we gave. But the true sign to me of having the feminine edge is not the person who is constantly exhausted and feeling behind and overwhelmed and can't catch up, but the person who invests in her own sanity, time, thinking, and energetic well-being as a valuable currency to be able to then give to the people around her, right? She understands that she has to show up as a specific type of woman, as a specific type of leader to have the patience and to allow the space to train and build and curate a scalable empire. And finally, number 5 is our main measure of courage is staying direction toward our own version of success, even when others don't understand or support us. And I think we go through iterations of this over and over and over again as female entrepreneurs, and any female. If you're an employee, you don't have to be leading a business even. We are bombarded by distractions, and it's very easy to forget what we really want and what our priorities are in life. And we can easily look at somebody else and feel like, well, they've got all of that and I just have this. But if you really peel back the onion at its core, you actually have everything that truly makes you happy and fulfills you in life. The other stuff is just the challenge or the goal for you. And so I think it's really important to remember that, yes, at one point in time, that was important to go and achieve that and get that. But especially if you're somebody who's like, I've hit that 5 years ago, you hit your 5-year goal. Instead of continuing to move your line, I'm not saying don't challenge yourself, but also consider challenging yourself in a different way. You're the only one who has agency over making sure that you're spending the right amount of time with yourself and the people that are important to you in your life. And it takes a tremendous amount of grit and resilience and courage to stay focused on that. And I see you, girl, because I know how challenging that can be. We can get completely distracted by the shiny objects, by people trying to pull at us, right? The more successful you get, the more people want a piece of you, want to be a part of it. I get that. And I also think that success belongs to you and it's yours and yours alone. And only you can decide what your version of success is. And only you get to choose who you want to bring with you in your ecosystem on your path to achieving that. Okay, leader, final thoughts. You don't have to act like anybody else but yourself, but your most genuine, authentic, truest self to get the results that you want. So lean into it, lean into your empathy, your emotions, your vulnerability. Let yourself feel those relationships and feel your way through navigating the complexities of business ownership and show up, know your value, and stand for that. And that is what I believe is the feminine edge. All right. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you same time, same place next Monday. Take care. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.